Oop. Hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Stonks Maxin. I believe it's day 157 right now. But, I also see my Discord is not connected. Oh, wait, here we go. Okay, let's see. It says you've been disconnected. All right, there we go. Looks good. All right, welcome back. I was at SCSP AI plus Compute Conference on Thursday. Let's take a look here. Thoughts, recap, yep. And I want to spend today going over some of the big statements, themes that we went over, that was talked about, and maybe how that will impact markets going forward. Okay, so I have two things here. First, I have the recap I plan to post on Substack, and then also thoughts that I just was able to write down in the heat of the moment. I think what I have here so far, one of the big themes was there's going to have to be a lot of capital to put into a lot of the investment opportunities with onshoring semiconductors, with creating data centers for AI compute or AI workloads. And there seems to be a disconnect between Wall Street, which focuses a lot on the quarter-to-quarter financial results, and the actual national technological goal or mindset that really has a long-term objective. There's two kind of schools of thought here, and that's my takeaway. Point number one, it seems like a lot of these industry reps, so think OpenAI, there was Ben Schwartz, who was a government affairs leader at OpenAI, who stressed this idea of aligning investment objectives to be more long-term oriented. Same thing with Pat Gelsinger. Pat Gelsinger, ex-CEO of Intel. I think he was pushed out ultimately because of Wall Street punishing Intel for having a 50% decline in their stock price within the past 3 years since he joined as CEO in 2021. But I think what Pat did was he really transformed Intel to focus on long-term thinking, to focus on bringing back their manufacturing supremacy. And it seems like they are on track to release their new manufacturing process, Intel 18A, in the second half of 2025 for high volume manufacturing. So these two really big industry visionaries, that's kind of what they were thinking of at the time. I think I agree. Number two, energy, labor, and permitting are bottlenecks for infrastructure deployment. And so I think this was touched on by not just industry people, but also government representatives. As you can see here, there's a fireside chat with Senator Mark Warner. I believe he's a senator for Virginia. And he thinks CHIPS Act, very nice, wants investment in energy, so nuclear energy, SMRs, small modular reactors, and then fusion energy. He also thinks that there should be less regulation, less permitting required to build out data centers. I think his region of governing, or his constituent region, it covers a lot of where data centers today reside. Yeah. I think the other part is point number three, two major players in the AI race. This is China versus US. And trade restrictions, I believe I spelled this wrong here, but trade restrictions between the two countries seem to not really get much done. If you heard in the news, China has seemingly been able to leverage nearby countries, Malaysia, Singapore, to access high-end compute resources from NVIDIA. So H200, H100, Blackwell systems in order to actually train and use for inference. And this is also another big thing that was brought up for DeepSeek. DeepSeek was released back in January or early February, I think, and that sparked a lot of fears about the cost of compute coming down for training next generation models. So you have NVIDIA and the HBM players, SK Hynix, Micron, Samsung, that are all benefiting from a lot of this hardware spend. And the market thought that was at risk with DeepSeek. People claimed, or I guess the creators of DeepSeek R1 claimed that they were able to train their models with only about $5 million, which seems to have been disproved at this point. They have a lot more GPUs than they let on. And then number two here, but number 4, there's actually a lot of technological discussion about what's going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years in terms of computing platforms. If you see towards the very beginning of computers, you had vacuum tubes, but for the PC revolution, that really hinged on CPUs, integrated circuits, central processing units, that are really great for general purpose computing. Then you have GPUs, which are commonly used in this age of AI. 2015, you had, I believe, Atom or ConvNet, AlexNet, that's what it was. 2015, AlexNet really ushered this deep learning phase, started with image processing, computer vision, expanded over to the natural language side. 2022, ChatGPT. So within just 7 years, you had this really exponential growth in model sizes. I think if you look at this chart of traditional machine learning systems compared to deep learning, computationally intensive machine learning systems, you'll see that the growth is really exponential in terms of the floating point operations per second, the flops. And that requires a lot more powerful GPUs in order to do that processing. So I might actually add that. Yeah, I might add that here. And the next computing platforms, so you have quantum. That was a big topic of discussion. Superconductors, which really revolves around the material science space. And then I think reversible computing was another one. Their Computing was a startup. The CEO was able to talk about his ideas about what reversible computing could be like. I'm not entirely sure if that's a term, but there's that. And then neuromorphic computing, trying to mimic what the brain does. I think another one was, don't remember off the top of my head. And I don't have a 5th one yet. Maybe I'll create like a 5th takeaway here. Top 5. I feel like that's a nice odd number. I don't know why. It just seems very nice. Top 5 takeaways. So let me start writing here because I want to be able to get something done by tonight. I'm going to go to my girlfriend's birthday later, so I have about an hour and a half. Let's see what we can cook up. This post recaps my top 5 takeaways and thoughts about the road ahead. Let's dive in, get past Wall Street's short-termism, and focus on long-term outcome. My main takeaway from the conference was that this technological development is going to take time. Wall Street is obsessed, maybe I spelled this wrong, with short-term quarterly results, but the reality is the build-out of AI infrastructure and reshoring of U.S. semiconductor manufacturing is going to take years. This idea was reiterated many times by industry visionaries, including Intel ex-CEO Pat Gelsinger and OpenAI government affairs Ben Schwartz. By adopting a long-term view, okay, there is a distinction to be made between envisioning a long-term investment horizon and the speed at which capital is deployed and projects are executed. Keith Cott, DocuSign ex-CEO and founder of the Cott Foundation, emphasized that in technological leadership, the natural law doesn't eat the small. The natural law big. Okay, yeah, this is a worse one. Well, it's the fast that beats the slow. History has shown. Okay. But the reality is building out AI infrastructure and US semiconductor is going to take years. Pat Gelsinger. So Ben Schwartz, OpenAI. So there is a distinction to be made. Reiterated many times by industry visionaries including Intel ex-CEO Pat Gelsinger and OpenAI policy head Ben Schwartz. Okay. Yeah, so I want to phrase this. There is a distinction between envisioning a long-term and the speed at which capital is deployed. Ex-CEO of DocuSign. Keith Cott, ex-CEO of DocuSign, proclaimed the natural law of technology shows that the big player doesn't beat the small player, but it's the fast player that beats the slow player. Oh, damn, I definitely cropped. Oh, shoot, rock. So there's a distinction between envisioning a long-term investment horizon and the speed at which capital is deployed. Ex-CEO of DocuSign proclaimed the natural law of technological leadership shows that the big player doesn't eat the small player, but it's the fast player that beats the slow player. To dominate this field, sit idly, speed, capital deployment, and execution. Project execution is key. Following the point above on being quick to deploy capital and execute on infrastructure projects, the bottlenecks the main bottlenecks hindering the main hindrances, is that even a word? Hindrances are threefold. So 1, energy, labor, and permitting. Building AI data centers and semiconductor fabs are AI data centers and semiconductor fabs are very power intensive. Consume tremendous amounts of unfathomable amounts of power. Okay. Let's see if we can find some research on energy requirements for AI. That's very cool. Okay, I do want some type of graph. estimated data center electricity consumption and its share in total electricity demand in selected region. I think this is terawatt hours, maybe? So I did hear some thoughts I remember from what's driving the interesting. I did hear some news about the grid itself might actually be pretty modernized, but something regulation wise is preventing, I think, either behind the meter or front of the meter. Let's see. Costs, so watt per flops per watt. Okay. Performance per watt. So let's get the flops, floating point operations per second, right? Because I guess with the tensors, the matrix multiplication, I guess you are using floating point numbers. Okay. Flops per watt. Kiloflops per watt. Interesting. Okay. I am gonna come back real quick. Use the bathroom. So I do remember hearing something, I don't know if I wrote this down, but there is kind of this, there is this disconnect between the number of watts, the current capacity of energy production, and then the required energy production. I just don't know where they got that number from. Okay, yeah, I think this was earlier about utility companies restricting behind the meter. I have to take a look at that. Oh, okay, this is very, very interesting. Okay, let me see if I can. Do you have any data resources that estimates the total energy demand as a result of AI data centers? So data on current power capacity. So this was a month ago. Let's take a look. I'm trying to think. I wonder if there were also concerns about this in, let's say, the rise of the internet, because I'd imagine that was also okay. I'm gonna log in. Close this off real quick. Sign in with Google. Use another account. Let's see if stream is still going. Okay, nice. Okay, that's an interesting graph. Lawrence Berkeley International Labs. International Energy Agency. This is, wow. Okay. Hmm. Can you provide any sources on current U.S. power capacity and projected power needs? Yeah, this is conversion of 1 joule per second is equal to joules. Okay. BP Global. Hmm. Okay, maybe I will consider Zing Fund, United States. Okay, so today it seems like 4.25 terawatt hours, and then eventually 13% growth in demand forecast. Could be interesting to save as. Estimates from ICF suggest that %13 compounded annual growth. Sea change, economy, electrification. $33. Is expected to increase 9% by 2028. And 18% by 2033, an increase of 2% on average compared to the current levels in 2021. Okay, so interesting that they have a split between peak demand and then also, in general, electricity demand. Okay, so it seems like this area looks like Virginia. Also, I'm surprised Arizona. I'm gonna be honest, this is Nevada. Don't know if this, I'm guessing, is Arizona. Could be this one. My geography isn't that great. Available electrical grid. Okay, interesting. Total U.S. electricity demand is expected to increase 9%. Call this compared to demand in 2024. Okay. United States map. Okay, so that is Arizona, that is New Mexico. Okay. You know, I'm actually kind of surprised. Why is this blue energy demand Q1 24 greater than the percent increase from Q1 23? They don't give us the exact terawatt hours. So my guess here, 18% by 2033, 5,500 terawatt hours. Seems like this number is like 4,750 terawatt hours. % by 2028. Okay. An installed electricity generation capacity of approximately 1,200 gigawatts. All right. So at any point in time, you can produce 1,200 gigawatts of energy. All right. So it does seem like 4,000 terawatt hours. Yeah. Okay, so let me try to do the math here. If the electricity generation capacity is 1,200 gigawatts. So watts per second. So how many seconds are in a minute? 60, and then 60 minutes in an hour. So 60 times 60, then does that mean the total production capacity at any point in time is 1,200 gigawatts times 30 times 30, which is equal to 60 times 60. So gigawatts times 60 seconds times 60 minutes divide that by 1,000, so 4,320 terawatt hours. %, okay. Actual output as a percentage of max capacity. Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Is the average, just so that I am clear, is the capacity factor the typical power output as a percent of the total capacity? If so, why? If so, how come wind and solar are so low? Wind isn't constant. Okay. Okay, I can kind of see how this ties into the estimated annual generation. Seems like this capacity factor is really important to understand. You have a max capacity, which is if you were to generate 100% of energy at all times, you will have that max capacity, let's say 1,000 gigawatts. But in most cases, that doesn't happen, especially with things like solar and wind. Solar, in order to generate max capacity, you need the sunlight at all times, but it seems like the sun sets, and that's when you're not actually able to generate any power. Seems like that's the same case with wind, where wind is really the energy that is converted into electrical energy. And I think coal is probably chemical energy. Same with natural gas and nuclear. So it does seem like there's different types of capacity factors for different types of energy sources. So that's maybe at a high level. I kind of want to, so put in 4,200 terawatt hours. This is max capacity. I'll put this here. Okay. If today's demand is 4,000 terawatt hours and it grows to 5 terawatt hours by 2033, do you know if the US electrical grid can handle it? And if not, how much capacity needs to grow? Okay, 420 gigawatts, it seems like a lot. Find a way to supply the 1,500 terawatt hour deficit. I think labor is another big thing. So labor, and semis. So I am kind of blending in to Axios. Disconnect. Okay, so it's 6:35 right now. I think I'm gonna have to leave soon and probably get some. Let's see, how's the stream? All right, it's not doing too bad. Gonna need to leave soon and get something to eat, and then probably we'll head out. Okay. Jobs today, industry to add 114,000 jobs by 2030. 67,000 or 48% of new jobs or risk going unfilled. To reshore. US semiconductor manufacturing. When was this, by the way? Let's see. $2023. Okay. The semiconductor industry trade group, semiconductor, I'll do SIA, estimated the workforce will grow by around 15,000 by 2030. So just 5 years from now. 5 years by 2030. Conductor workforce. To roughly 46,000 jobs. Roughly 46,000 jobs. Okay. So SIA estimates that greater than 50% of these jobs are at risk of going unfilled when extrapolating current degree completion rates. I wonder what is the population? What's the population of Taiwan? 23 million. Okay. $76,000. Okay, not even 1%. Okay, so it seems like they think this is actually a broader problem, not just within semiconductors, but also within the entire IT sector. The Department of Defense microelectronic comments. That was something mentioned. Okay. Permitting. Okay, let's take a look at data center permitting. Yeah, this will actually be very interesting. Bespoke MCP. Seems like a Mackenzie. Yeah, it is. So what is the typical timeline for getting a permit on data centers? Okay, so maybe it would be helpful. Published by Lawrence Berkeley Lab. Okay. So is this actually in line? This is data center electricity consumption. Yeah, this is total projected US energy demand. Annual global energy use, terawatt hours. Okay. It's still data centers. Okay, this is actually very interesting. Shipments network tracker. Okay. Telco edge. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here that I need to understand, but this is actually very great stuff. I do think. Okay. So this is in the UK. I wish there was something that was available for the US. Let's take a look. What's here? Fiber Smart. Oh fuck. Spilled some water. Hello? It's okay. Well, I should have enough. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. I see. Okay. 我现在在做作业呢。Yeah. Alright. See you. Bye. Okay, I need to clean this up and then need to head out. I do want to see if this is something in the US. So is this data center pool US or UK? I see. Okay. An overview by XAI. So what are the types of permits to build a data center? Maybe that's a better question to ask. If there's multiple types of permits, then that can be pretty convoluted. Permitting. vcfund@gmail.com. Oh, what the? All right. So air quality, wow. Yeah, this might be something where if I'm not in the industry, it actually might be very hard to understand. Side towers. According to Avison Legal, the permitting process for permitting takes 6 to 18 months and focuses can take 6 to 18 months to focus on environmental, zoning, building, and energy permits. So I'm gonna copy this. Right. Okay, so I think with that, gonna end this here. Still have a lot more to keep on researching, and then hopefully have this published by tomorrow. I'll have to see. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.